All right, here we go. Monday, October 10th. Yes, I have a video today. That means that we finally got some weather to talk about here as we head into this week, especially tomorrow. Okay, there is the potential for severe weather tomorrow, so keep that in mind. But you wouldn't know it by looking at the visible satellite imagery right now. Look at the vast amount of clear skies over much of the upper Midwest, northern plains, and Rocky Mountains. Hardly a cloud to be found on the visible satellite loop. You have to go into Idaho, northern Idaho, Washington, and then, of course, Alberta to get some clouds. But eventually, that's a system that's going to be pushing east and is going to provide the trigger, I think, for some thunderstorm activity as we head into tomorrow evening and overnight. Here's the system on the water vapor imagery. Finally, some moisture heading into the western sections of the U.S. As that moisture pulls east, it should trigger at least some shower and storm activity. Some of it could be severe. I'll show you that here in just a little bit. But meanwhile, look at all the dry air east of the Rocky Mountains, basically from Colorado and Wyoming on east through the eastern sections of the United States. Nothing but dry air. So yes, a lot of the country has actually been quiet here, except for the Hurricane Ian. A lot of the country's been quiet here for the last month. But I think that trend will eventually change here. Here's your river of air, 30 to 35,000 feet. Call this, of course, the jet stream. I'm going to rewind it here, and let's take a look at what we got today. You can see a ridge has developed now over a good section of the western sections of the U.S. as the jet stream surges north of the international border and into southern and central Canada. So warm bubble of air now over the western half of the country as it stays cool out east as they have a trough out there. Now watch as we go through time. Here's tomorrow now as we head into tomorrow morning, and we still are under that ridge, so it's going to be a real warm day tomorrow considering that our average high is right around 61 degrees. And then look at what happens. This is tomorrow evening. We have a jet streak now that will be punching into the Dakotas and then eventually turning northeast over northwestern Minnesota. And usually on the right rear quad of a jet streak like this is where you can get some thunderstorm activity and definitely some lift in the atmosphere. And I think that's going to happen as we go through the evening and overnight hours tomorrow. And then here it comes. This is foreshadowing of some things to come. A large upper level low is going to pivot and spin over the Great Lakes and upper Midwest as we get into later this week and weekend. And that means much cooler. In fact, even I'd say cold air as we get into later this week and weekend. Now focusing on tomorrow evening. This is at about 6 or 7 in the evening tomorrow. And these are the winds at about, let's go at about 20 to 25,000 feet. And look at the winds out in the eastern Dakotas and northwestern Minnesota. That's that jet streak I'm talking about. So we're going to have some pretty strong winds just to the north and to the west of eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And then as we go down in our atmosphere at about 5 to 7,000 feet, look at how the winds now are coming from the south and southwest. This is what we call a low-level jet. So you're kind of getting the picture here. We've got strong winds in the lower levels coming from the south, and then they are turning to the west and southwest as we go up in height, and they're actually increasing in intensity too. So we're getting a spin of the winds in the atmosphere, and that's a pretty good recipe for some organized shower and storm activity as we head into tomorrow evening. In fact, this is the area that I have earmarked for the potential for some severe weather. Yes, October 11th, and we're going to be talking about the potential for severe weather over eastern Minnesota and southeastern Minnesota and a good chunk of northwestern Wisconsin and portions of northern Iowa as we get that low-level fuel coming up out of the south and southwest, and then we get the stronger winds coming out of the west and the jet streak, and you combine those two together with a low-pressure system, and that's why we've got this bullseye over much of our region here for severe weather as we head through the evening and overnight hours tomorrow. All right. Hey, speaking of moisture, look how dry it is. We showed you this on the water vapor loop imagery, but look at all this dry air over Minnesota and Wisconsin today. And it's not until tomorrow that we finally plug into some moisture. And you can see it here. Look at how our atmosphere becomes much more moist as we head into the evening and overnight hours now tomorrow. That's the reason why we could get some significant rains. I think it'll be patchy and scattered, but some significant rains across eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin as we head into the evening and overnight hours tomorrow. And the satellite loop, the future satellite loop, kind of shows that too. Not much happening here over the next 24 hours, but this is tomorrow morning. You can start to see a cold front as we head into the morning and early afternoon hours now, encroaching on the eastern Dakotas and northwestern Minnesota. And then watch what happens right around, this would be right around 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening now, tomorrow evening, an explosion of thunderstorms over eastern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin, and then they linger into the overnight hours and early morning hours on Wednesday. But by then we should get, some of us should get some much needed moisture. And I don't want to show you this, especially you people that love the warm air, but watch what happens here as we go through time. Look at all the warm air over us now tomorrow. And of course, this is Minnesota and Wisconsin right here. Look at all the warm air indicative of the red colors over us tomorrow. But as we head into the rest of this week and weekend, look at that blue area that is just spinning over the upper Midwest. These are temperatures in the lower levels of our atmosphere. This tells you that it's going to be relatively cool here, if not cold, as we head into the second half of this week and into this weekend. But rest assured, we eventually warm up again as we head into the October 19th and 20th time frame. We get a little bit warmer air here in the upper Midwest. But yeah, it's about time we get some cold air, some really cold air, because this first 12 days here of October will have proved to be well above average as far as the temperatures are concerned. Okay, here's your extended forecast. Look at this. I'm shooting for an 80. I'm going to go for it. An 80-degree reading tomorrow, and then temperatures crash. And I don't expect us to be anywhere near or above normal as we get into the second half of this week and into this weekend. And look at all the wind. So say goodbye to some of the fall foliage as the winds really kick in here as we start the day tomorrow and then go through the rest of this week and into this weekend. And yeah, maybe even a severe storm or two as we head into the evening hours tomorrow and early Wednesday morning. All right, that's your forecast, everyone. Hey, thanks for joining me. Take care. We may talk to you tomorrow evening.